Hi guys, so we are going to plant our onions. I have 6 kind of onions. I have Candy, Scout, Patterson, Walla Walla, Flat of Italy, and Bridger. So we're going to go ahead and get the bed prepped, and then we're going to get our onions in. I'd like to welcome you to my backyard Kentucky homestead. My name is Kim, and let's get started. So excited about getting the onions in ground. Really hoping we get a really good crop this year. So let's get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is get all of the mulch, the straw mulch that I had in over the winter, and any leaves out of the bed so that we can add compost to this as well as some fertilizer. I don't want to leave the brown material here in the bed and then cover it with compost, because what that'll do is cause it to break down and rob the soil of the nitrogen. And the onions especially need a lot of onions especially need a lot of nitrogen, because each of those layers of the onion bulb are actually related to the leaves on top. So the more leaves you have, the bigger the onion can be. So when we do start fertilizing these on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, I'm going to be focusing on using fish emulsion. And then like once a month, we'll be adding a general holly tone from Espoma. Just a general fertilizer, balanced one. So they have all of the ingredients that they need, all the nutrients, but we're going to definitely focus on the nitrogen for onions. It's really surprising. My first year growing onions, I thought you would go more for the phosphorus, but it's actually the nitrogen that's important because of the structure of the plant. Now inside, I had been trimming my onions, but now I'm not going to. I've heard both arguments for both sides of trimming them outside. I tried it last year. I'm not going to say it hurt, but it didn't help. So this year I think I'm going to go with not trimming the onions and see how it goes. Because the idea of it behind not trimming them is that if you do trim them, it can create space for more bacteria to get into the plant and cause a variety of diseases. If you don't trim them, they have a better chance of warding that off. The idea of trimming them, though, is that they won't fall over because they don't get top heavy. So we'll just keep an eye on that. If we have to stake them, we will. If we have to trim them later in May into June, then we'll do that too. So I'm going to go ahead and finish getting this cleaned out, and then we will add compost and fertilizer. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open the compost. This is just bagged compost from Home Depot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just spread this around and break up any clumps. I think that's good for now. Now your raised beds will go down and lose depth every year, so you will have to add compost or a raised beds mix or something to them every year as they become more established in the fuller. Like, I did not completely fill this the first year, so it was a little bit lower. So next year, probably in June when I harvest these onions, I'll add a little bit more, so we'll get a little bit closer to the top of the bed. But this is good for now. But you gotta balance the budget with the how much dirt you have, and this is enough to work perfectly fine. So now I'm going to go ahead and use fertilizer. This is Espoma Holly Tone. And it's a really neutral. A lot of the Espoma products especially are very similar. This one is a little bit more acidic than, say, Garden Tone. But most plants, garden vegetables especially, really like to have a little bit lower pH. So this bed will usually register 7. So adding a little bit of the acidifier to it will just bring it down just a little bit. So maybe make it just a little bit happier. And do try not to breathe the dust coming back at you. Okay. And the package does have directions about how much to use, but organic fertilizer is very mild. This is also a very slow release, 30-day process, so it's not like it's going to take up these nutrients really fast. This is actually not going to be available to the plant for a while, probably until April. And what I will do probably within this next few days is I'll come back out with that fish emulsion, liquid fertilizer, which is an immediate uptake, and that'll give the plants the food that they need. And we're going to add some worm castings, which will help add the nitrogen, as well as other biodiversity nutrients. Go ahead and scratch this in. Make sure it has good contact with the soil. Okay, that should do it. Even though I'm going to be planting onions in this bed right now, it will not always have onions in it. And what I noticed last year was the beds I had, these ornamental alliums, sometimes they're called onions, sometimes they're called garlic. But when I've had these in the beds, I had fewer pest pressures, especially around the squashes. So I'm working on getting one of these in every single bed. So even though I'm going to have alliums in here, I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. And then when I transplant other things out this summer, come June, then it'll be ready to go. So let me get the onions and then we'll get started. So we'll see how many of these we can get into this bed. What I did this year versus last year was that I tried as much as possible to have one seed per cell. I do actually have several that have more than one, so we'll separate those. Onions are really, really easy to separate. But I wanted to have larger plants to put out, and I think they're bigger than last year, and we'll see how they do. So the first one we have is Bridger onion. And I did start these December 27th. Just rough up the root so it's not wrapped around itself. And then we're going to plant these about 6 inches apart. And it's okay to go up the stem just a little bit, but you don't want to plant it super deep. And I'm just guesstimating at the space. So here I've got 2, and I'm going to just very gently pull it apart. You'll hear a little bit of tearing, but that's okay. The roots are very sturdy. And then we have 2 plants. I'll show you again. This has got 2 in it. Or just, actually got 3 in it. So got 1, 2, and 3. And each one of them has a really nice root. You want to make sure that the roots are completely covered. Walla Walla are next, and we're going to go around the ornamental allium. So what I have here is a combination of intermediate day onions, and Walla Walla is a long day onion. We are on the northern portion of the intermediate day, and what that is that with onions, they need a certain number of hours of daylight to bulb up. So before you get to that level of daylight, you want to have your onion plants as big as you can have them, because that will determine how big the bulbs get. And for intermediate day onions, it's 12 to 14 hours of daylight. For a long day, it's 14 to 16. And long day is going to be your northern portions of the country, and your short day is going to be the southern portion of the country. Because your daylight hours in the south do not increase nearly as much as they do in the north. As with the winter, they don't get a whole lot shorter like they do in the north. Let's go ahead and get these in. So we're kind of like on the upper edge. I think our longest day is 14 hours and 55 minutes. And you can actually, there's a website you can go to. I'll link it below in the description. But you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you how many hours of daylight you have throughout the year. I'll even look at that during the winter so that I can count down the days till we start getting more light. Because we have like just over 9 hours of daylight during the shortest day. Okay, the Walla Wallas are in for better or for worse. My rows have definitely gone cattywampus, but hey, we'll deal with it. It'll work. And then this one is Flat of Italy. These are a red onion. I had a hard time keeping these moist. I think I'm going to get rid of these trays altogether. I did not have a whole lot of luck with them with the self-watering portion, but I think maybe part of it was these actual trays not being level. And I've definitely had a lot better luck with those burpy ones that have the rubber bottoms or silicone bottoms. I'm much happier with those. All right, so we're going to get the Flat of Italy into the ground or to the raised bed. So last year I went ahead at this point and mulched my onions, but then I ended up losing almost all of my Walla Wallas. I think it was because I probably smothered them. So I'm going to wait at least probably a week, let these settle in and make sure that they're doing okay. And we'll go ahead and get them watered in today and then make sure that they stay moist but not soggy. But I'm going to wait probably 7 days or so, maybe next weekend, go ahead and mulch at that point if they look like they've really seeded. My red onions that I started the Flat of Italy are not doing very well. So I went ahead and got a starter pack mix of intermediate day onions from Dixondale Farms. I've never done this before. So I'm going to go ahead and try it, but they've got red candy apple, candy, and superstar. And I'm going to try to plant some of the candy and superstar over on top of these potatoes. And then I'm going to put the red candy probably in place of where the Flat of Italy onions are pretty much dying back. So I'm going to give this a try. Don't know if this will work. Seed just Spoon said you can't plant them together. I just don't know if they'll crowd each other out. So we're just going to put these across the bed. So to do a fair comparison of the onions I got from Dixondale Farm, I did go ahead and pick up a bunch of Patterson, as well as some candy and a bunch of Superstar, which is an accident, but we'll go with it. And I did want to see how they will do by themselves or in a bed by themselves, because I'm afraid that the potatoes are going to probably overrun them and they won't get enough light and cry them out. This is a full bed of Patterson. It is one I also started from seed and have in another bed, so we'll see how they do comparison-wise. And this bed here, I have candy on that end and Superstar on this side. So I did not start Superstar from seed, but I did start candy from seed. So we will see how that goes comparison-wise. I have the Alaska Fish Fertilizer. It is a 511. And it's about 2 tablespoons per gallon. I've got a gallon container, so we're gonna put just two, kind of estimate it. Just put 2 glugs in there. Okay. That's pretty good. That's much thicker than the last one I had. This is definitely something you want to do outside because it is kind of stinky. So we got all of the onions planted. We got the ones from Dixondale Farms planted, as well as the ones I started from seed back right after Christmas. This coming August, I'm going to go ahead and plant seeds directly in the garden. Apparently they will start growing and overwinter just like garlic. So I'm super excited to see how that's going to work, and I'm really excited to see how these seedlings that I put out today and a couple days ago are going to do. I have gotten everything fertilized and mulched, so we are good to go, and it's just a matter of waiting for a couple of months to see what we have. So if you're interested in some other stuff that I'm growing, check out this video. And until the next time, happy gardening and bye.